Hey y'all, autumn is among us and I'm going to share with you my quick and easy makeup routine for every day and just how I'm making my way into the heart of the autumn season while navigating changes in my life. Without further hesitation, let's get right into the video. Let's get started with my everyday work makeup that I've been doing over the last couple weeks. I have been starting off with my eyeshadow, and I am using the Tarte Tartelette in Bloom. A few weeks ago, I recorded my autumn or warm toned muted eyeshadow palette collection. In that video there was a few palettes, including this one from Tarte, that I want to get more usage out of in my day-to-day. Recently I haven't really been feeling the urge to use an eyeshadow primer, so I've been using a little bit of my MAC Studio Fix powder foundation as my eye base. As summer slowly transitions into autumn, I find myself almost feeling like I'm going into like a little bit of a makeup rut. I want to wear a lesser and lesser amount of makeup on a daily basis, and I just find that it's making me feel more comfortable in my own skin. I'm enjoying wearing fewer products. I enjoy that. It takes me a lot less time to get ready. With the Tartelette palette, I'm going to start off with the shade Charmer as my all-over base shade. This is almost like a secondary priming step over my powder foundation. Even though I want a more simplified makeup routine over the last few weeks, I still want something that's going to make me feel like put together and presentable, something that's going to make me feel like the best version of me. After I do this eye prep step, I'll move on and prime my face and apply color corrector, so that way when I go back in a little bit to apply the rest of my base makeup, it's had a moment to marinate and melt into the skin. For primer, I've been using this mini sample size of the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. I believe it was Julia Adams who I was watching who recommended this primer. I think she prefers the red one, and I have a sample of that one as well. But I wanted to finish off this one before I tried that one, because from some different reviews I've seen, several creators have said that there isn't a huge difference, but it seems like even though some people say there isn't a huge difference between the original Power Grip Primer and the one with the inclusion of niacinamide, which is the reddish pinkish one, people do have a preference, and I always turn a little bit right through my eyebrows to keep any eyebrow makeup on. For color corrector, I'm using two different shades of the same product. I'm using Huda Beauty FauxFilter color corrector in the shade Pink Mellow and Cherry Blossom. Starting off with Cherry Blossom, I use just a small amount and I place it right here at the inner corner of my lower eye, and I'll place a little bit right here. The shade Cherry Blossom is a color corrector that is more akin to the rest of my surrounding skin tone, whereas the secondary shade I'm using, Pink Mellow, is much warmer, but it's better for color correction. I need most of my color correction here around my mouth. Over the last couple weeks, I've been doing some IPL treatments to help try and get rid of my facial hair, just because having to deal with it and get rid of it is something that feel a certain way when you're getting ready and you're doing your makeup and it's like, oh, there's stubble or something like that. It can just create this really disorienting feeling, especially if it kind of goes against the look that you're going for. So I've been trying to help get rid of that, so that way it's not something I need to contend with on a daily basis. And I feel like it's helping, but through my facial hair area where I find it's making the texture of my skin a little bit rougher, but then after a couple days it will slow down. So my thought is that is just the hair follicle almost like inflaming in response to what's happened, and then it's smoothing out. I could be mistaken, but that's what I'm experiencing. I've noticed like when I go a few days between like removing my facial hair, so I don't have anywhere to go, I don't shave just to give my skin a break. And I found that some places the hair is almost like little bald patches, which is such a big relief. Now I'm going to use my IT Cosmetics Complexion Perfection brush, and I'm just going to stipple this in. I have been using a little bit of Flower Child, which is the second matte shade, and it's only slightly deeper than our base shade, but I've been using this to create a little bit of a soft sculpt right through my socket line. Before I proceed with any more powder eyeshadows, I want to do a little bit of an eyeliner, and this product is something I've been really keen on trying since I was looking at some of the press makeup tutorials from Patty Dubrow, who did Margot Robbie's makeup for a lot of the Barbie premiere parties. And the product she mentioned a few times was the Chanel Eyeshadow Liner Kohl and Contour Clair number 12. And it's a chubby eyeshadow pencil. And I want definition on my eyelash line, but I don't want a ton. So what I've been doing is I scribble it on, and then I'll use a small brush. This is the Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush, and I'll smudge it back and forth, just to create a little bit of a hazy shadow right at my lash line. And I really focus on working it between the roots of my lashes and then buff into the socket and up. There's been something about this whole journey on YouTube that has done so much for me and how I feel I'm able to express myself in a very genuine way that I never expected. I was so apprehensive to start a YouTube channel. I did not look like the people that were trending and I never wanted to put something out that was authentic to myself. Through the years, I uploaded different videos, and I found over time I felt more and more comfortable expressing more of who I am. And through that, it almost allowed me to feel more comfortable with expressing myself in a way that I felt true to who I am on the inside. And as those feelings came more and more to the forefront, as I began to embrace all the different facets of myself, that prompted a whole new set of different types of anxiety, because I felt like I needed to then have conversations with my husband, my family, and then friends. And you never know how people are going to respond or react. Everything is on such a slow, gradual pace that I feel like it's just been a natural progression, not only for me, but for other people in my life. And it's just been so wonderful that it just feels like you're being surrounded by people that truly love you and make you feel comfortable. And it makes going on a journey like this to become your true self so much more freeing and more like everything is right. That has been just an incredible feeling. Now that I've got a little bit of liner on, I'm going to end up covering most of it, but I just like that extra depth. And I'm going to use the shade Rocker. And I'm going back to that large fluffy brush I started with. This is the BK Beauty A503. And I'm using the side of the brush. And I'm just going to pat this right over my eyelid. And I'm going to keep it just shy of the inner corner of my eye. Now I'm going to switch over to my highlight powder. This is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow highlighter in the shade Blossom Glow, and I'm going to use that small Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush. Using this, I am going to highlight and brighten the inner corner of my eye, taking it right up into the hollow. And I love using this lighter shade to trace the inner half of the socket. It just makes the eye feel bigger and more rounded, which is the overall effect I like to create with my eye makeup. Almost gives you the illusion that you took the time to contour and carve out this inner portion of your socket, but you are just brightening it. You are exaggerating your placement. Right, now I'm going to use a little bit of the e.l.f. Halo Glow. I'm using shade 0.5 Fair. And in my collection, I have a few of these glow enhancing or liquid primer type products. It's so fascinating because they're all at very different price points, but for the most part, they all do the same thing, and they're all quite interchangeable. And this e.l.f. Halo Glow almost has a little bit more base pigment compared to something like the Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow or the Auric Glow Lust. But once you blend it out, you don't really notice that stronger base pigment coming through. Even though we're moving into the autumn season and the colors and fashion and everything are getting a little bit deeper, they're getting a little bit softer, they're getting warmer, I still like to add those elements of the cool pinks from like the typical summer and spring color palettes as my base layer because it adds an overall brightness. I have been using this blusher from Tower 28 that I purchased last summer, I think it was. I think it came out originally around the time of the Barbie movie. And I purchased it and it kind of sat in the back of my drawer. Then I recently was like, let's use this. So this is called the Tower 28 BeachPlease Luminous Tinted Balm. And the shade is called Dream Hour. I am going to apply this high up on my cheeks. Now currently all I have on my skin is the tinted glow base and a little bit of color corrector. I have not applied my foundation and I haven't applied my just standard skin tone colored concealer. This is almost acting like a background, and with my skin having some reddiness from my rosacea, this is gonna almost tie in and kind of fade into the background. I got a little too much on that side, so we'll just even it out. You're applying your base makeup on top of it, so it will show through and kind of shine through, but it will just soften everything down. So don't worry if you try this and you apply too much like I did on this side. Just go through, even it out, so that way when you do apply your base makeup, everything feels a little bit more even and more balanced. Now I'm going to use my Huda Beauty FauxFilter Concealer. I use the shade 1.5B Yogurt Drops. When I'm blending out my concealer, I start by blending the places that I don't mind if some of the coverage dissipates. For my under eyes where I want the most coverage, if I let that sit for just a moment and then I'll blend it out, I'll get a little bit more color payoff. And then using the smaller side of the brush, I can go through and blend and pull out the concealer anywhere that I want to blend it to. And that's what I love about this Huda Beauty concealer. The first time I used it, it was a little overwhelming because a lot of product goes a very long ways. And as you get the hang of it, you find how easily you can manipulate this product. And as you spread it and blend it, buff it into the skin, it just melts into the skin. It almost makes the skin that you applied on just look smoother. Switch over to my LA Girl Pro Setting Powder. This is the Brightening Loose Powder. For this step, I like to use a brush, and I'm using my Charlotte Tilbury Powder and Sculpt brush. I want to keep this concealer where I applied it, so I'm going to use this pink powder to just set over it and almost create like a faux bake on the powder. You are just roughly setting it. We are not really pressing it in. You're using a small amount, pressing it, and then moving on. And the primary reason I took that step is that way when I go in with my powder foundation, it's got a little bit of a set to it, so it's not going to blend and move around. Now I'm going to use my MAC Studio Fix Powder Plus Foundation. I'm using the shade NC15, and I'm using this IT Cosmetics brush. I purchased this several years ago when they came out with the Bye Bye Pores bronzer. This is the Heavenly Skin Bye Bye Pores powder brush number 701. Since this was originally released with the powder bronzer, I stored this in my makeup collection with my bronzer brushes, and I never thought about using it for powder foundation until the other day. It was sitting here because I pulled it out to use it as a bronzer, ended up using a different brush, and then I saw this and I was like, oh, let's try this for my powder foundation, and I really enjoy it. IT Cosmetics does some really beautiful synthetic brushes. If you love a nice synthetic brush and you don't mind spending a little bit more money, IT Cosmetics does some really good ones. If you're comparing it to something like BK Beauty, I find BK Beauty's synthetic brush fiber to be ever so slightly softer, but there are some brushes in the IT Cosmetics line I prefer the way they move and blend compared to my other synthetic brushes I love, like BK Beauty or Real Techniques. But that's the thing, sometimes I'm in the mood to use a lot of IT Cosmetics brushes. Sometimes I only want to use my BK Beauty brushes. Sometimes I want a natural hair brush, so I'll use my Refer brushes. Just stippled a layer of powder foundation all over. And before I apply it to my face, when I leave the powder compact, I put it on the palm of my hand, work it in, and then I'll go back in. And even though I'm removing product before I go to my face, it's allowing me to create a thinner layer of product, but it's gonna stretch a lot further than it would if I was just to go in. Pressing it in is going to allow me to blend out a little bit more easily. Now that I've got my powder foundation on, I like to use a little bit of setting spray. This is the Physicians Essence of Healthy Mix bottle. This has a mixture of the Physicians Formula Essence for Healthy Mist, a little bit of MAC Fix Plus. When the bottles get low and it gets a little bit harder to spray, I just mix them all together in whichever bottle I prefer the sprayer on. I like to spray my powder base. That way it's going to melt into the skin, look more skin-like. Now I'm going to start adding a little bit of color, and I'm going to start by adding a lip stain. This is from the brand Peri Para. This is a water bare tint in shade 07. This is from the Peri Para Heritage collection. This is going to be a little bit cooler than some of the other products I'm going to apply, but it's going to help tie everything in and make some of the slightly warmer shades feel more at home and like they're harmonizing with my coloring. As this dries down and settles in, some of the shine will tone back a little bit, but this is going to create a very nice long wearing stain on the lips that's not going to feel tight or dry on the lips. It's just going to give you a really beautiful canvas, and whatever you apply on top will have just a little bit of extra hint of color. I'm going to go back to my Wet n Wild Make a Glow highlighter in the shade Blossom Glow using my Charlotte Tilbury powder and sculpt brush. I'm going to apply a little bit of my highlight high up on my cheekbones. And I like to apply my highlighter in a way that fills out and plumps up this temple. Because as we have more birthdays and as we start losing some of our facial fat, this area can become a little bit more hollow. So I like to plump it up, and I like to plump up my cheekbones because I love playing up my bone structure. And whenever you're doing your makeup, I always suggest finding different creators that, you know, maybe you'll have one creator that you follow because you love the way they apply their base, someone else because you love the way they do their eyes. Find different people who do their makeup in ways that you really enjoy, and then you can take all these different tips and apply them in a way to create your own customized makeup look that really enhances your features and makes you feel the most beautiful every single time that you do your makeup. I'm going to pop over to my Laura Geller Baked Bronze-n-Brighten in the shade Fair, and I'm going to use a big fluffy Real Techniques RT01. This is the powder brush. We're almost getting out of the time of year where I can get away with wearing bronzer, because sometimes if I put too much bronzer on in a season where we really wouldn't be that bronze, then I tend not to wear a lot of bronzer just because it feels really unnatural. So I will just apply a little bit, keep it further back, higher up on the cheeks to give the cheek a little bit of warmth, tie it into the middle of the nose, chin, and tie in the neck with the face. Now I'm going to use a little bit of my rom&nd Better Than Cheek blush. This is in the shade W02 Strawberry Milk. And again, using my Charlotte Tilbury powder and sculpt. I'm going to use this here on the front portion of my cheek. This is almost like act like a transition between a matte highlighter and a lighter blush shade. This is going to brighten up and plump up this front portion of my cheek, and I'm going to use this to tie into my more shimmery blusher in just a moment. Where my under eye tear trough area can get a little dark, I like adding a little bit of a matte blusher right in here because it almost helps to act like a secondary color corrector. Before I finish off my cheek makeup, I'm going to finish off my lower lash line going in with the shade Sweetheart, this matte peach beige, because I want to use this shade to almost mimic where I applied bronzer. So I'm going to apply this right under my eyes using my Real Techniques crease brush. And then I'm going to buff up and blend into the crease with whatever's left. It was so funny because throughout my journey on YouTube, as things within my personal life started to change, and as I became more comfortable expressing myself in a way that felt most authentic, I was so fearful of the horrible comments, because there's something about, one, putting yourself on the internet. You are putting yourself in a place where people feel like they're free to say whatever we want. You know, that's the thing. We are free to say whatever we want. And some people use that freedom to say some really nasty and possibly hurtful things. And I've had people say things that hit me, especially early on. Some things people would say were just so off color and so horrible. I would really take it to heart. But then you learn that you can't take it to heart. That's when I embraced the block and delete. And there's even a few words that I've blocked on my channel. Some words that don't need to be used. And if it's something that can be interpreted as a derogatory slur or something that is just ugly, if it's something that could come off as offensive, more than likely I have blocked that word from being able to appear in comments, because we don't need that. Life is too short and there's too many other awful things going on in the world to have people spewing out these horribly offensive things, because even if they don't offend me, they could offend someone reading the comments. So if you have nothing nice to say, then just don't post. I mean, that's what we all do. We all scroll through social media and we see something that we don't like, and you can either engage with it, which helps to then spread and engage this person's post, which if you don't like it, then why would you want to help push it and promote it in the algorithm? Because it doesn't matter if you like something or dislike something. Engagement's engagement, and whether it's engaged with positively or negatively, it's going to get boosted. If you don't like it, then just swipe away, don't engage, because less engagement is going to get this thing less pushed out. So if you don't like it, then just move on. It's the algorithm's way of telling you it's not worth your time. Just move on. For blusher, I'm going to be using one of my favorite blushes. This is the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blush. You can see I love this one. Mine's getting rubbed off. This is shade 07 Cool Coral. And what I love about this blusher is if you are someone who likes the idea of NARS Orgasm or Dior Rose Montagne, but you find those shades to be a little too warm on your skin, this Essence blush in Cool Coral gives you a very similar peachy coral flush to the skin, but it's just ever so slightly cooler in undertone. And compared to those two, it is much cheaper. And I love the way these blend onto the cheeks. Like the Essence Pure Nude Baked Highlighter, it's very reminiscent of the formula of the Hourglass Ambient Lighting powders and blushers. It's a very soft, smoothing, blurring effect on the skin, but the price point is phenomenal. I think here in Canada, these baked blushes are either $8 or $10 if I'm not mistaken. Quite affordable. You can pick up a few different shades that interest you, and I purchased all of the shades when it first released, and I've loved all of them. They are such beautiful blushers. For eyebrows, I've been keeping it super easy. I've been using the Benefit Precisely My Brow Wax. This is the tinted one in shade number 1. I think number 1, it's either a neutral blonde or a cool blonde. I use it to lighten up my brow hairs to blend in with either my biological hair, which is highlighted, or whatever hair unit I'm wearing that day, because all of my hair units that I've purchased, and I say unit because I've got some hair toppers, I've got wigs, I have all sorts of things that just make getting ready a lot more fun. But they're all in a shade that mimics my natural hair's coloring that I've had done in salon. So this shade helps me take my slightly darker brows and blend them in with my hair color. For lip liner, I'm using one of the new Maybelline Lifter liners. This is in shade 06 Line Leader. And I have to say, it's a really nice lip liner. I don't know if this is my favorite shade, but it's a nice pencil. And then I'm going to finish it off with a Lawless Forget the Filler lipstick, and this is in the shade Daisy Girl. And then I'm going to finish it off with a Maybelline Lifter Gloss. This is in the shade 021 Gummy Bear. Last thing I have to do for today's makeup look is my lashes. And I have been doing a very quick and simple 3-step routine. So I start off with the Benefit They're Real Tinted Primer. After I apply my lash primer, I go right in with the e.l.f. Lash and Roll. And then to lock everything in and keep things from smudging, I use my Etude Dr. Mascara Fixer. Most days I work from home, but there's a few days that I work outside of the home, or days I'm going out and I want to make sure things last all day. I have been loving this One Size On Till Dawn. This is a very heavy duty setting spray, but it just does a really beautiful job for keeping everything on until you're ready to take it off. So close your eyes, hold your breath, give it a good mist, and you are good until dawn. We are going to give the hair a zhuzh. I don't know if I've shared with you all what the name color of this wig. This wig is from the brand Belle Tress, and this is from their City collection. This is called Montecito, and this is in the shade Raw Sugar Blonde Rooted. I love it. It's a really beautiful neutral blonde with an ash brown root, and it has a mix of cooler and warmer highlights. You have a little bit of everything in the middle. There are a few other shades that I'm very interested in trying. Like there's this really beautiful ginger. I think it's called something like Sienna Spice. It is so beautiful, and that is on my wish list to pick up for next spring because I think it's such a beautiful spring-like shade. And the only thing we have left to do is apply fragrance, and my fragrance today is going to be Xerjoff Cosmerati Dama Bianca. This is a really beautiful, fresh, cozy vanilla, but it's not a warm, ooey gooey sticky. If you are someone who wants to wear a really nice vanilla perfume in warm weather, this is a really beautiful fragrance for me. Even though it can be worn in warm weather, I still prefer my vanilla scents for this slightly cooler season, so I'm more of a vanilla autumn winter person. That is my scent of the day. Here's my final look of the day. I just need to fix my necklaces. There we go. I'll get it. Okay, so that is the final look. I will have all of the products linked in the description box down below, so if you want to check them out, check them out. Some of them are affiliate links, so if you decide to use them, I do get a small commission which goes back into creating content for my channel. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here. I value the time we spend together every week, and until we see each other again, I hope you're taking care of yourself wherever it is you are in the world. Bye, y'all.